Today, we're going to be talking about the most important step in tennis. So what is it? Is it the shuffle step? Is it the mogul step? Is it the hop step? No, it's none of those things. We're talking about the split step. The split step's the most important step because it's the only step or footwork pattern that happens on every single shot. The job of the split step is to set you up to help you react more quickly so you can get to more balls, so you can get in better position. And that's why if you watch any high-level tennis player, they'll do a split step on every single ball, which means that if you're not currently doing a split step on every single shot, you need to forget all the other stuff that you're doing and you need to start working on it right now. That's how important it is. So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you about the perfect split step. We're going to really quickly cover when you need to do a split step and why you're trying to do a split step. Then we're going to look at what makes up the perfect split step, because once you know that and once you start working on it, it's going to really make a huge difference in your game because it's going to help you react more quickly, get to more balls, so you can play a much better quality of shot on a more consistent basis. So if you're excited to learn this, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because if you're excited, other people are going to be excited and it helps me get this information to as many people as possible. Okay, so the first thing we need to look at is when to do the split step, because it's a really important piece of the puzzle. Now, the difficulty is there isn't actually a single perfect time. If you watch the best players in the world, they do a split step at a different time depending on what's going on, and there's a number of different factors that can affect when you should do a split step. But I want to simplify things, make things much easier, and give you two rules to think about. And those two rules are, if you're at the back of the court, you want to do your split step as your opponent is contacting the ball. Rule number two is if you're at the net or approaching the net, you want to do it as your opponent is starting their forward swing. The reason for that difference is when you're at the back of the court, you've got more time to react. So as they contact the ball, you're landing from your split step. Then as soon as you see which direction the ball's moving into, you can start your unit turn, you can start your preparation, and you can start moving towards the ball. But when you're approaching the net or when you're at the net, you've got less time to react. So if you land from your split step as they're contacting the ball, for a lot of people, it doesn't quite give them enough time to react to what's going on. So if you're approaching the net or you're at the net, you want to think about starting or doing your split step, timing it as they start their forward swing. So if they're shaping up for their shot, as you see them start that forward swing, that's where you're going to do your split step. Same thing on the forehand side. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to think about is when to do it. And we've got at the baseline, so in a baseline rally, or if you're returning serve, timing your split step so you're landing as they make contact with the ball. If you're approaching the net or you're at the net, timing your split step so you're landing as they start that forward swing. When we're thinking about how to do a split step, we've got to keep in mind why we do the split step. Keep remembering that the aim is to get yourself in a position that allows you to move in as many different directions as possible, as quickly as you can. So what we've got to think about are how wide our stance is, so really where our feet are going to go. We've got to think about how much knee bend, how low we're going to go. We've got to think about our overall posture, and then we've got to think about our weight distribution. So there's a few key bits to it. Let's start by thinking about the feet and how wide they go. So your aim is going to be to land about a hip width and a half to 2 hip widths apart. One of the big mistakes that a lot of people make is they're too narrow. And when you're too narrow, if you're going to try and move to the side, you have to reach and firstly, that's slower because with my shin pointing like that, it's actually going to slow me down a little bit. Secondly, it's going to increase the chances of me hurting my hamstrings. So what we want is a wider landing so that when we move to the side, we'll be lifting the leg up, planting it under our hip, accelerating forwards with this kind of shin angle. So I've got another video that talks more specifically about the lift pivot plant, but just for now, understand that in order to move quickly to the side, whichever side we're going to go, it's going to be this motion. And to do that, we need a wide stance. So the first thing is the width, then we've got to think about what the feet are doing. So if you look, my feet are pointing directly forwards. The reason we want them to point directly forwards is because it's going to allow us to move to either side with the same level or the same efficiency. If my foot's pointing in this direction, I'm going to more quickly be able to move to my forehand side, but if it's in this direction, it's going to be harder to move to the backhand side. So we want it nice and even, so then I can either go that way or I can go to the backhand side. So we've got the width, we've got the direction that the feet are pointing in. Now we've got to think about the weight distribution on the feet. Again, because my aim is to be able to move sideways as quickly as I can, I want my weight to be more towards the inner edge of the feet. So if I'm resting on the outside of my feet, I'm going to have to rock and then push off, whereas with my weight on the inside edge of the foot, I'm then going to be able to push into the ground and move in either direction. Along with that comes our weight distribution from front to back. So we want to be just on the balls of the feet. So I'm not going to be up like that. My heels are just going to be slightly off to the ground. So my weight is more towards the ball of the foot. So we're thinking inside edge of the foot, more towards the ball of the foot, almost like you're going to push off your big toe each time. Okay, so we've got width, weight on the inside edge of the foot, heels slightly off the ground, so just barely grazing the floor, weight distribution forwards a little bit, so you're on the balls of the feet and you can react. The next thing is going to be what the knees are doing. Now this is a mistake, or this is where a lot of people get it wrong. A lot of people land with the knees pointing outwards, because in theory that helps you to activate your glutes more, and a lot of people are used to squatting in the gym and deadlifting in the gym, so that's how they get taught the split step. But that's a little bit slower. We're talking about the fastest, most efficient way to split step. We want the knees caved in a little bit. Now the reason for this is, in order to push off in either direction, I've got to put force into the ground. So if my knees are outwards and I want to move to that side, I've got to bring my knee in and then push. It's 100th of a second or 200ths of a second, but that can be the difference between getting to a shot and not getting to a shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to land with my knees slightly inside the line of my toe, with my shins pushing at an angle that allows me to instantly push off. So whichever way I'm going to go, I can push in that direction without having to drop my knee first and then push it. So that's the next key point. So now we've got a few things. We've got hip width to 2.5 or to 2 hip widths apart. We've got feet pointing forwards. We've got weight towards the inside edge, towards the ball of the foot. And now we've got the knees caved in just a little bit. The next thing I want you to look at is posture. And the way to think about this, we're going to be thinking about trying to have our shin and our body at the same angle. What this is going to do is it's going to help us to use the maximum amount of muscle more efficiently. So if I land and I'm leaning forwards like this, it's going to make it really easy to use my my glutes, but it's going to make it harder to use the muscles at the front of my legs. So in terms of trying to respond as quickly as I can, I want my shins and my body in the same angle. Okay, so each time I land, I'm going to be trying to make sure I've got body, shin at the same angle. And if you watch Djokovic returning serve, he's kind of the picture perfect version of this, which is one of the reasons he's so amazing and one of the fastest players that's ever lived around the court. Next thing you want to look at is your posture. And pretty much it's covered in the last one. We're going to have shin, body angle the same, but we want a neutral spine, a neutral pelvis. If I've got an arched back like this, it's going to be less efficient. It's going to increase my chance of injuring myself, especially my hamstrings. If I'm too rounded like that, it's not going to be efficient. So we want it somewhere in between. We want a nice neutral spine when we land. Okay, so that's it. They're the key features of the ideal split step. We've got feet hip width to 2 hip widths apart, pointing directly forwards on the inside edge of the foot, weight more towards the ball of the foot, knees inside the line of the feet so we can drive off in any direction, shin and body angle the same with a neutral pelvis and a tall spine. If you can get into this position consistently, it's going to allow you to react much, much faster to any shot that your opponent hits. Now that you know what it looks like, you've got to practice it, because if you've been doing things a certain way for a long period of time, You're going to have natural habits built in, so it's going to take a bit of time to override those habits. If you step right out on court and then try and do this, it's probably not going to happen. So you're going to want to put lots and lots of repetition in, practicing your perfect split step over and over again. You also need to practice it from a number of different steps, a number of different entrances, and that's what we're going to work on now. So the first thing I want you to do is set up in your split step, and you're just going to practice doing a little hop and landing in that same split step. So just making sure, are my feet pointing in the right direction, are my knees in the right place, and then you can kind of test it out. You can try and push from side to side, you can see if you feel strong, check that you're doing the right thing, and just practice doing that. So just landing with a little hop, because this is a step you're going to use over and over again. When you're at the net, you might just be doing little bounces trying to land in that position, depending on your style of return of serve. A lot of players like Djokovic just start like there or just skip forwards a little bit. So you want to practice just starting in your ready position or in your split step position and landing in your split step position, making sure it's working. So that's variation number one. Different progressions for that. You want to practice by just lowering yourself in from one leg at a time. So just dropping down into position, and again, I check, are my feet in the right direction? Are my knees in the right place? What's my body angle? What's my shin angle? And just program that. So practice over and over again, just making sure, are things in the right place? You want to program it stepping the other way. So are my feet in the right position? If it's not, make an adjustment, think it through, and just practice it over and over again. Next thing you want to think about is just dropping. So can I drop? Are my feet, knees, is everything in the right position? Just practicing it over and over again until it becomes second nature. You can do these in your bedroom, you can do them in your front room, you can do them in the morning, in the evening, you can do them as part of your warm-up. You've just got to program it over and over and over again. Now that you've practiced the basic version, you've got to look at other ways to get into the split step. So a lot of the time you're going to be split stepping while you're moving forward. So if your style of return of serve is that big step forwards into a split step, you want to practice that over and over again. So you'll probably use one leg or the other when you're returning serve. So you definitely want to work on that leg. So if you know you step off your right leg every time, you're going to be practicing stepping off your right leg into that position. But you should also practice it from the left as well. So you should also practice both sides, because when you're approaching the net, if you play an approach shot, when you split step is based on when your opponent's hitting the ball. So you need to be able to do it from your right leg, and you need to be able to do it from your left leg. And the progressions are going to be starting with, one step, just step and landing, and then building up your speed. So you go from walking, then start jogging, each time making sure your feet are landing in the right place. When you can do it jogging consistently, then you're going to start to increase your speed. And as you start to increase your speed, you're probably going to need to bend your legs just a little bit more. So if I'm going slowly, I might be able to land with this amount of leg bend, but if I'm sprinting at full speed, I'm probably going to want to bend my legs a little bit more to lower my center of gravity to help me slow down, so then I can get to the volley. So the first progression is just going to be the standing and then the dropping into position. Then you've got to start to practice at different speeds, moving forwards, going and landing in the split step, making sure that you've got that perfect positioning. Now that you've practiced from static positions, you've practiced in transitioning into the split step from moving forwards, you've got to work on the side to side movement, because a lot of the time you're going to be at the back of the court, and it's probably going to be the one that you use the most. We've got two different sideways movements at the back of the court. We've got side steps, and then we've got the crossover steps. Now generally, if the ball's a little bit closer in, you're playing a shot in and around that region, you're going to have plenty of time to get back in from a side step. If the ball's wider, it's more likely that you're going to be doing crossover steps. But obviously you need to practice both. And you need to practice transitioning the right leg and transitioning from the left leg getting that feeling of turning and landing with this even weight distribution. And just like before, we're going to practice at slower speeds, and then we're going to practice at faster speeds. So you want to start off with the side shuffles, just dropping in, trying to get that even weight distribution. So each time I land, you check yourself, are things in the right position? And you can start to speed things up, making sure that you can do it at multiple different speeds. Once you've got the hang of those, then you're going to move to the crossover step. And often with a crossover step, you'll be going from that outside foot. So if I've hit a forehand as a right-hander, a lot of the time I'm going to be in front of my body and then having to transition. And it's a bit of a funky movement if you haven't practiced it, which is why you need to practice it over and over again. The side step, the crossover steps, making sure that you can do it from the right leg and from the left leg, because depending where you're going from, depending where you're going to, you need to be able to do it efficiently from both directions. So after practicing transitioning into the split step from lots of different directions, I want to show you a couple of different drills that you can use just to really make sure the quality of your split step's good, make sure you're landing in that ideal position. So what we're going to do now are quick movements from the split step. So you can practice this in all of the different variations we've just done, but I'm going to start from this neutral stance. I'm just going to drop into the split step. First thing I'm going to try and do is twist. So I'm going to try and drop in and just rotate and see if I can land in the split step again. But the aim here is, if you're on the inside edge of your feet, if the knees are caved in, if everything's like it should be, you should be able to land and then rotate really quickly. So it should be a really fast land and rotate. If you haven't got this position quite right, then when you land, it's going to take a little bit of time. So you'll land and then you'll have to adjust something, or you'll land, have to cave your knee in and then twist. So practicing just landing and rotating and getting used to the feeling. Rotating upon that landing is going to be a really good way to make sure that you've got the right position. The other thing that you can practice is just a little hop from side to side. So same thing, I can land and hop. Now, if when I land and hop, I have to cave my knee in, or I have to adjust my position before I can move, then we know I didn't land in this ideal position. So it should be there, and I should just be able to spring, or I should be able to go in any different direction, just landing, just springing from that position, because mechanically everything's set up. I've got the right weight distribution, I've got the right force being driven through my feet, so as I land, I can just make that little shuffle step. So you want to practice both of those variations. You want to practice the landing and rotating, and you want to practice the landing just with a little shuffle step. And then of course, you can combine the two, and you should practice by combining the two. So I can be doing my forwards movement, I can practice getting into position and then rotating. I can be practicing my forwards movement into a little hop. Same thing with the sideways movements. I can pretend I'm doing that wide forehand, coming back in, and then rotating. Now obviously after I've done that side step, I'm not going to land and rotate 90 degrees, because that's not where the ball's going to be coming from. This is just a training exercise to make sure that you're programming in this step, teaching your body how to react quickly in any different position, so that when you're on court, whatever shot your opponent hits, you're able to transition into that split step, and you're able to react in whatever different way you need to increase your likelihood, your chances of making a good quality next shot. Okay, so we've covered a lot of information on the split step. We've looked at when to do it, how to do it, and I've showed you a few of the best drills you can do to program it in and practice it, because at the end of the day, if you want this to happen on court, you're going to have done a lot of different repetitions before it's going to be natural. But I promise it is going to be well worth your time investment working on it, because it's going to help you to get in much better positions, which is really going to help your level of play. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit the like button, so hit that thumbs up. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. It helps me to get the information out. Also, make sure you've subscribed to my channel. And if you've got any friends that play tennis, it'd be awesome if you could send it to them as well. A couple of things that we haven't covered in this video. Firstly is preparing your body to be able to do the split step, because there's one thing knowing how to do it, and what I've showed you are some fairly progressed, fairly advanced drills for hopping and moving in different directions, and if your body can do those, that's awesome. But in order to be able to do a split step on every single point, every single shot, every single point in a 2 to 3 set match, a lot of people need to put work in. So you need to strengthen your feet, strengthen your ankles, strengthen your legs in a way that's going to allow you to do a split step through the whole length of the match. So I've created another video somewhere, another free YouTube video. So the link should be on this page somewhere. Just click on that and you can watch that to learn how to prepare your ankles so you can do this safely. The final piece is the when to do the split step. So you know that you've got to be doing it as they're swinging or as they're contacting the ball. In order for that to happen, you've got to have good visual processing. You've got to be able to see clearly at a certain distance. And that's actually something that a lot of adult tennis players struggle with. So I've created a video that talks to you in depth more about some vision training and some things that you can do to work on that side of things. And there'll be a link down below in the description that you can click on that, and it'll take you over to my website for some more information. Okay? Thanks a lot.